Gerard, I'm very proud to welcome you this evening because you wrote these books, The Procurement Value Proposition. Maybe if you can tell us a little bit more about it and how do you think that the procurement has changed?
Well, I'm very honoured to be here and to be asked to come to such an auspicious group as this and that my book has even been looked at by you guys, which is it's made me feel very good. How it came about is because I had a collaboration with Rob Henfield, who's a professor in the United States, and we'd been talking for some time about how procurement was changing. People often talk about procurement in a negative sense, but we felt that procurement has a position in business these days which is unequivocal, and people working in procurement, certainly procurement leaders, are strategic people in businesses, there's no doubt about that. And for 30 years, you can track back and see how procurement has changed. In the 1980s, it first came into its real place. Prior to that, there was no such thing as supply management. Deming came back from Japan with his ideas about just-in-time and lean, which from working with Japanese motor companies. And in America, Milton Friedman started to talk about shareholder value maximization, which demanded cost reduction in businesses. So in that decade, we saw the introduction of this Japanese stuff, just-in-time and lean. In the next decade, we saw a lot more outsourcing and offshoring, people looking for cheaper places to manufacture and reducing costs by moving stuff out of the business. And in the next decade, we saw the introduction of electronic platforms, e-procurement, e-tendering. But on the back of all these things, reducing cost or managing cost out of the business meant that you started managing risk in. And I'd say from about 2010 on, people have now become very, very worried about risk and global risk, and there's a bunch of things around that which are all in the book. But essentially, procurement's value proposition is that it adds real value to business. It affects profit and it affects the bottom line, which is what the CEO and the shareholders will be interested in.
Okay, but why do you think that it has changed?
I think it's changed because globalization, whilst it's happened in the past, has become very real. You can travel from Paris to Sydney, the other side of the world, in a matter of a day, maybe now, and it would have taken weeks before. But I think there's 5 big reasons. The 5 big reasons being demographic change. In the Northern Hemisphere countries, the developed countries and developed economies, we have a declining birth rate and an aging population, which has started to change demand, the way people consume, the wages people expect are all different, and that has changed things in a big way. We've also got the massive geopolitical change which is going on at the moment in the Middle and Far East, and also it's impacting on Europe.
So you mean that the world is uncertain?
The world is much more uncertain. People for a long time wanted certainty. They want certainty. So you hear phrases like best practice, or you hear phrases like standard operating procedures. There is no best practice. There's good practice and there's bad practice, but there's no best practice.
No best practice for predictive things, so...
Well, the other thing that we're seeing is huge innovations which are now enabling us to use the masses of data that the internet provides, and we couldn't really before. People often described it as taking a glass of water from Niagara Falls. Now you can channel the data and channel the information, but you need to be a specialist in doing that. You need to know how to understand and handle data, but also how to analyse data. But I think we will see in procurement a growth in predictive analytics and predictive data, which will help people make more scientific decisions with regard to procurement.
So how do you see the future of supply management?
I think the future, and your choice of words, supply management, are very good, because the future is about end-to-end supply chain. It has to be about moving towards the first part of business, which is the input section, and that is what the supply chain is about. It will need to be more collaborative, working with people rather than fighting with people to get cheaper prices. And I think that you will find that you will have procurement people that have 2 major skills. They will have commercial skills and they will need to have technical skills. They will need to be more scientific about what they do. And I think we will see a shrinkage in the size of functions in organisations. Silos will evaporate and people will work together with an aligned aim to achieve the company's goals.